Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sports Writers on the Web. I'm Herald-Whig Sports Editor Don O'Brien, alongside Matt Schuckman and Blake Toppmeyer, breaking down everything you'd care to know about area high school and college sports. Guys, week 3 of the high school football season. I'll throw it out. Quickest answer wins. Game of the week this week. Who you got?
Triopia Brown County.
Triopia Brown. Why are you looking forward to that one?
Well, I think the WIBC North seems pretty loaded this year with Brown County, Triopia, Route, and Unity Payson. But I think these two are the cream of the crop, both 2-0. Both have had pretty easy wins so far. So should be a good one.
Who's winning?
I got Triopia. I know Mr. Schuckman disagrees with me.
I'm going with Brown County. I like the way the Hornets, I like their backfield, I like the athleticism they have. If you follow the history of this series, it's always a dogfight. I don't expect anything less Friday night. But I'll give you another game to keep your eye on, and that's Unity Payson, Clopton-Ellsbury. It's a game where Unity Payson could have had a forfeit victory this week because Virginia nixed its football program, so they could have had a 2-0 victory and moved on. Instead, they went and found another opponent. Clopton-Ellsbury is a team from the other side of the river that likes to throw the ball, and they like to get the ball up and down the field. This is a good test for Unity Payson, for a Unity Payson team that's been very impressive the first 2 weeks. Looks like they could do something special, too, come the postseason if things keep rolling their way.
On that note, you guys surprised that Unity is forfeiting the forfeit?
A little bit, yeah. You know, a little bit, but I think a lot of it comes back to the fact you need playoff points. You know, you don't get any playoff points with the forfeit win. So Unity should be okay. A team like Pleasant Hill, which had to take the forfeit last week, got 0 playoff points. If they end up 5-4, they're going to be a bubble team on whether they get in the playoffs or not because they'll have a low number of playoff points.
Yeah, I think you're almost in some situations better off not taking that forfeit and going out and find somebody you can beat. Now, Unity took the interesting route of finding a tough team, someone that's not going to be a pushover. But when you're forced to play that hand, sometimes it's a little tough to find somebody to fill that slot.
Brown County's been doing the same thing. It's working to fill its void left by the same thing. And we'll have a story in Thursday's paper about that, about what these teams are trying to do and why they're doing it.
Looking a little bit closer to home, Quincy High School, Blake comes off a loss last week in Mateo Valley. They have another, not quite as long road trip this Saturday afternoon. They go down to St. Louis, Normandy. Talked to Rick Little, also on the Top Tips blog, the Rick Little Show. I mean, you're sweeping the nation right now.
Yeah.
What did Rick have to say about this coming week's game?
I think it's a little bit of a scary game. Not so much as Mateo Valley was, but this is going to be another team, Normandy, that's going to be improved over last year, much like Mateo Valley was. They have a good running back combination. Tion Blair and Jason Lewis. One guy's Blair, I believe, is the power guy. Lewis is a speed guy. So they got a pretty good combination in the backfield. I think Quincy's going to be better strength-wise on both lines. Normandy's probably going to have a little more athleticism. So overall, it's probably a game you have to like the Blue Devils a bit, but not nearly as much as last year when they just stomped Normandy.
I can't believe that we've got a Q&D football game that's flying under the radar, especially when Jefferson City Alliance is a team that's coming to town. But not a lot. I mean, you guys didn't even mention that. It hasn't gotten a lot of hype or publicity this week with because of those 2 games that you guys mentioned. Chuck, Q&D's 2-0. I know you're somewhat surprised they're 2-0. What are the chances of them going 3-0 after this week?
I'm real curious to find out. Helias is a team that looked very impressive week 1 in beating Harrisonville. Came back and lost 48-6, I believe was the final, to a Francis Howell team. Now, Francis Howell is a Class 6 team in Missouri, one of the bigger schools in Missouri, but still, that's getting smoked. So how good is Helias? Is it going to be an up and down year for Helias? We saw that last year with the Crusaders. They'd have a really good week, then they'd stumble. They'd have a really good, I think it's a very similar team. They'll come out in the spread offense. They'll want to chuck the ball all over the field. Very similar to what QND saw last year. QND went to Jeff City last year and laid a whooping on them. I think it shocked everyone. Both teams are state ranked in their respective polls, and I think it's going to be a dogfight because I think this QND team blew out Northwest Academy last week, but Northwest Academy wasn't a very good team. Helias is going to be a much better team coming in, and I think this QND team's proven to be better than what a lot of people were going to give it credit for.
On the Arnie Smart and the Sports Guys game, which you can play at wig.com/contest, win $20 at Krieger's Food every week. I think you're one of the only guys that has QND winning this ball game Friday night.
I really think because they've gone back to what they know and what they love to do, and that's run the ball. They've gone back to the I formation. They'll run the power I. I mean, yes, they come out in the spread occasionally, but the first 2 weeks we've seen it very little compared. They ditched their entire belief in what offense was at Notre Dame for the last 3 years. Now they've gone back to it, and we saw last week, Northwest Academy had no prayer of stopping it. Elias is going to have its hands full.
Lots of good stuff on the football scene. Also, guys, lots of good stuff on some other sports scenes. Schuck, last night you were out at Flint Stadium, the first of 2 battles between Quincy High School and Quincy Notre Dame on the soccer field. QHS gets the 2-1 victory over QND. We've had, half dozen or so more games by each one of these squads. How do you see them shaping up as they now turn the corner to the midpoint of their season?
I've been very impressed with Quincy High. They talk so much about the new turf at Flint Stadium, how it's going to accentuate their speed, and how this was a team built for that turf. It's true, but the fact of the matter is they have great midfield play. They've got really good defenders, and when they play smart, they can be outstanding. They made some mistakes last night. It led to a goal for QND, but they didn't let it bother them. They turned around and answered it right away. I think this is a team that's now won 30 or has not lost in its last 34 straight games at Flint Stadium. I mean, they're setting themselves up to be a factor come the postseason. I think same with Notre Dame. I think the way Notre Dame played last night, they have no reason to hang their heads whatsoever. Taylor Reese he's developing into a pure stud in the midfield. They need to get a little more production up front. When their sweeper has 8 of their 12 goals on the season, you got to get something from your forwards. But if the way Notre Dame played last night, if they can maintain that sort of level of intensity against the quality teams on their schedule, this is a team that's going to be playing into November.
Speaking about playing teams going into November, Quincy High School volleyball team, Blake, still undefeated. They were able to get a nice one of their tournament over the weekend, the early bird invite. They beat QND in the process there. When are the Blue Devils going to lose?
That's a good question. Looking at the schedule, I could see this going on for a while. I mean, they're 7-0 now. They got Jacksonville coming up, and then they play at the Jacksonville Invite. Now, Jacksonville's decent. They're 3-0, and has been a team that's been competitive with QHS, but I see QHS beating Jacksonville. They won the Jacksonville Invite last year. I can see that happening again. It could push all the way until the end of September when they go Belleville East tournament down there. They normally see some very good competition at that. I think last year they lost 2 matches at that invitational. So yeah, that we could see until about the beginning of October until they lose.
Anybody else in the volleyball scenes caught your eye with the early returns?
Unity has played very well in winning the Lady Sons Classic. Their only loss is to QND being 2A, Unity's 1A. So they're off to a good start. Rachel Rush has just had a phenomenal start to her senior year, winning the MVP at that Lady Sons Classic. And Hannibal is another team. They've only played 2 matches so far, but they beat Payson last night. And as people in this area know, Payson's always good at volleyball. That hasn't really changed this year. So if you beat Payson, could be a good sign of things to come.
Lots of good stuff on the prep scene, college scene. I got to see history on Saturday. I think I'm the first person ever to watch Culver and QU football teams win on the same day. For the simple fact that it's the first ever night game for QU when they played out at Flint on Saturday night. I think for the Hawks, it's going to come to an end on Saturday. Marion ranked 6th in the nation. Only the 4th year of football at Marion, but they were quarterfinalists in the NAI playoffs last year. I think the Hawks will go down. However, Culver, check out them though on Saturday. They go to Peru State, a team they could have beaten last year, lost 21-14. I got the Cats going 2-0, so maybe you can get some cat scratch beaver going on in Canton Mountain.
Now you mentioned long road trips. That's not Peru as in
Nebraska.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
We're not going to South America.
No, we're not going to South America.
Okay. Good. That'd be a long road.
Okay, so if Culver wins week 2, does it carry over? Do they have a 3-game winning streak in store? Have you looked that far ahead?
No, like the team, I'm just going 1 game at a time.
Okay.
But I think after that, if the memories serves, I think they get into the more meatier part of their hack schedule.
I think so too.
And I think it's done after that. But good start for Jeff Duvenbeck and his crew.
Very much so.
You'll be reading more about them in Saturday's Herald-Whig. That's all we got. That's all the time we've got today. I'm Don O'Brien, Matt Schuckman, Blake Toppmeyer. We'll be back again next week.